This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back in for another episode of For the Good of the Game. We've got a really great interview today with two guys that have been friends for a very long time, and I think it'll really meet the criteria that we're trying to achieve this year with our theme of relationships. Our first guest, Bobby Jackson, goes by BoJack, played his college ball at cornerback for Florida State University in the late 70s. BoJack once held the all-time interception record for the Seminoles and was inducted into the Florida State Hall of Fame in 1993. He was drafted by the New York Jets in the sixth round of the 1978 NFL Draft. And after starting 16 games his rookie season, Bobby was named to the AFC All-Rookie team as a starter. He served as the Jets defensive captain for the 1981 season. BoJack was ultimately selected to the all-time Jet team as one of the top three corners in the history of the New York Jets, and he finished his career with a total of 21 interceptions. Now, his friend, Bobby Butler, also played collegiately as a cornerback at Florida State University, where he first met and was mentored by none other than Bobby Jackson. Bobby's senior year at FSU, the 1980 team, went 10-2, losing games to Miami in the regular season and Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl, each by 1 point, almost a perfect season. He was selected by the Atlanta Falcons with the 25th overall pick in the first round of the 1981 NFL Draft. Bobby enjoyed a very successful 12-year career with the Falcons, playing in 169 games, during which he accumulated 27 interceptions, and he retired following the 1992 season. So it is with great pleasure and gratitude, gentlemen, that I welcome Bobby Jackson and Bobby Butler to the show today.
All right.
Thank you for having us.
Well, I tell you what, it's been a while. We were talking off camera, and BoJack was letting Bobby know that he and I met through FBU Football University, where I used to work and he used to coach. And these guys presented a very unique opportunity, unlike a lot of people that we've interviewed, which have been coach and player, or player and player, but of the same era specifically. And even though these guys overlapped in terms of their NFL careers, Bobby Jackson was a senior at Florida State for the Seminoles when Bobby Butler came in as a freshman. So first, I want to start off, and Bobby Butler, I'm going to actually ask you to answer this first. When you came in and were welcomed into the environment there as a freshman, that could be pretty daunting. I know my freshman year of college, I played at a small NAIA school down in South Texas. My freshman year was, it's kind of like going to high school the first day or even junior high. You don't know what to expect. You get hassled a little bit. How was it, and what kind of welcome did you receive with regard to BoJack helping you out?
Well, first of all, let me say this. We were senior laden on our defense, and we had a senior secondary. Bobby, Mike Kincaid, Nat Terry, and Ivor Joe Hunter was a junior. And so, you had to respect that, right? Get in line, and, and they make sure you got a line now, right? But I'm gonna tell you, it was fun. I knew that coming in that, these guys are going to have 1 year with me and they're going to be gone. But I didn't know, you don't know how big the college game is until you get there. And, some of the things I saw Bobby do in practice, man, it was just incredible. And I go, I don't know if I can do those kind of things, right? And so it's good to be there with a senior group, and they really let a lot of us young guys away.
Well, I guess, you had a little bit of an advantage because I know that BoJack, when you were there, your first 2 years were under a previous head coach, and then Coach Bowden came in your junior year. And actually, you guys were 5-6 your junior year, having been, I think, 3-5 the year before, then 5-6 as a junior. And then you guys went 10-2 as well in your senior year. And it's obviously Coach Bowden came in and made a huge difference. But from your perspective as a senior, what did you see when Bobby came in terms of being a young guy and trying to, he's crashing the boards, trying to make a name as well as be respectful to the guys that are in front of him. How did that work for you in terms of, and how compelled did you feel to show that leadership, mentorship type relationship?
Well, when I first came in as I almost said a rookie, as a freshman in '74, the year prior to that, Florida State was 0-11. And so we had a rebuilding job to do. So my freshman year, we only improved that by one game. We were 1-10. I mean, we only won one game. That was against the University of Miami down there. We were in a lot of games, but we were just not mature enough to know how to win yet. Coach Darryl Mudra was our coach. He came from Western Illinois, brought a few players in with him. And I thought he was a decent coach. We had some position coaches. I had a guy named Deke Pollard who coached in the pros for a little while. And then he left after my sophomore year. And a coach named Jack Stanton came in, and Bobby knows him well. They were like brothers. They were like twin brothers. I don't know why defensive back coaches are like drill sergeants, but they were identical copies of each other. But our fortunes really changed when Bobby came in, as well as a guy named Ron Simmons. When those two guys came in, they impacted our defense tremendously, and that led us to our first 10-win season in the school's history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it's interesting. I was looking back, doing a little research, looking back over the rosters of each of your respective careers at Florida State, those that were available. There were a few that I couldn't find. And it was interesting to see the mix of guys that were there. How many of those guys went on to the next level. And there were quite a few teams that really, as opposed to maybe the run that Florida State went on, several years ago, while they were talent laden teams, they weren't necessarily packed with guys that were NFL prospects. And it's interesting to see there were a lot of players, from both of your eras that went on to play in the NFL. But Bobby Butler, when you were down there, and what was the environment like from your standpoint as you came in and went on through? Obviously, the seniors moved on after your freshman year. For the most part, and you guys were there, and Coach Bowden had kind of had an opportunity not only to build momentum and build a better, BoJack senior year, obviously having a great record, but also, kind of set the culture of the team. And how was that culture as a new guy, and then as you matured and went through your career at Florida State?
Well, it was a great opportunity when we came in, because what happened was, like I told you earlier, we were a senior-driven team, especially from a defensive side of the ball, right? And so we got a chance to learn from BoJack and those guys. And, Ron came in and made a big impact as a freshman. But, I think we had maybe 8 or 9 starters that were seniors on that squad. Mm. And so myself, Mark Bonasart, Keith Jones, all of us, we made the traveling squad, but we were there taking all this stuff in, and we went 10-2. And so they set the bar high. They set the standard high. And so when we took over the next year, we thought that, hey, look, we got to continue to do this thing, man. We got to win, right? And we went 8-3 my sophomore year, and pretty much everybody was a new starter on defense. But Bobby Jackson's senior year, they set the bar high. And so we had to keep up with it. And the coach who was coaching us, Jack Stanton, was not going to let us go backwards, right? Mm-hmm. He had his knee in our back, pushed us forward the whole time. I promise you that, man. It was harder on my group as a sophomore than it was his senior year, because those guys were proven. They were pros, right? We had 3 pros in that secondary. Mm-hmm. And so those guys were proven. And we had Willie Jones playing one defensive end. And we had some guys, right? And Abe Smith, and I can go on and on. But they set the bar high. We went through spring after that season, and we worked our tails off, and we came back my sophomore year, thinking that, hey, look, we can do this thing as well. And so we started to take those steps. We're 8-3 my sophomore year. My junior year, of course, we had the first regular season undefeated class. We were 11-0 my junior year, lost to Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl. Then my senior year, I thought we had the best team in the country, and we ended up losing again to Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah, BoJack, when you talk about setting the standard with these guys coming in, what was especially when Coach Stanton came in, what was the environment like in the defensive backs room? Was it a pretty good collegial type atmosphere with all you guys getting along, or did you guys have a conscious kind of a conscious thought that, hey, we're setting the standard here. We're going to improve this and leave these guys in good shape.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt that defensive backfield position on our team was probably our strength, our strong point. We had not only some good starters, as Bobby mentioned, but we also had depth. And we got hurt, they would step in and wouldn't miss a beat. Another thing that we had was, I mean, with Coach Stanton and D. Pollard, we were in condition. We were smart about the game, and we knew how to hit people. We loved doing that. And on top of that, we were all pretty much world-class sprinters, all of us.
Right.
I think our slowest guy probably was a 4.4 in
Wow.
the 40. I ran myself, Nat Terry, and Leon Bright, who played running back with us. We ran under 4.3. And Bobby did as well. You know, Bobby was a track guy himself. Bobby, he's going to tell you, I may jump ahead on it, but Bobby was a world-class quarterback before he became a defensive back.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't, obviously at any level in the game of football, speed kills, and when you're able to have not only starters that have that as well as good football IQ and great conditioning, but the backups are in the, and that's not something you typically see beyond the ones at a major college. You may lose a little depth or lose a little bit in your depth when those backups come in, either because of inexperience or whatever. So that's kind of cool. What is Bobby Butler? What was the environment like, as you recall? I've never had the pleasure of meeting Coach Bowden. I've admired him for years, but I haven't ever had the pleasure. What was it like overall when you got there, as far as that team culture goes, and how did you see it through your eyes as a young man at that point in early in his career?
Well, let me back up just a little bit.
Okay.
Let me back up to the day I first met Coach Bowden.
Okay.
Right. So we went to Florida State, me and my parents, on an unofficial visit. I played in a state championship game on a Friday night, and the next morning we drove to Tallahassee, and we had a meeting with him. And, the football team was done for the semester, no student body on campus. So it was like no fanfare. So, I didn't go on a recruiting trip there, and, everything was just wide open, and, they were selling me and all that kind of stuff. I went there when nobody was on campus. I met Coach Bowden. And in the 30 minutes that me and my parents sat down with him, I knew then that I was going to play for him. And I could never really explain it, other than I just felt a connection with him in the meeting room. I told my mom that when I walked out of the room. She said, "Son, you can't make a decision. You gotta take all your trips, right?" And so I fell in love with the guy. I didn't know why. It's just something about him that really connected me to him. And then I met Coach Stanton, which was a guy who never really talked much to me, right? My defensive back coach, he was a silent guy. He didn't want to have too much to say. And so we came in the fall, and he always made us believe that we were a great team. And so that's the thing about him. I mean, he can make you see beyond, right there in front of you. I mean, he make you look down the road and think a lot about yourself. Even when we're out of games, he would always let us know that we could win the game. Even being down 3 scores, 3 touchdowns, we can always win the game the way we play. And he'll make you feel that, and you'll go out and run through a brick wall for the guy.
That's awesome.
And make it happen. So he was that kind of a guy, and everybody loved him. That's the thing about Coach Bowden. Everybody loved Coach Bowden, and you did not want to let Coach Bowden down, right? Mm-hmm. And I can remember times after Bobby left, Coach Stanton would be driving us in the ground, and everybody want to quit. Yep. And you'll go to Coach Bowden's office to tell him that I'm leaving, I'm done. I can't take this no more. And when you come out of that office, John, he'll make you feel like, well, what did I go in there for in the first place, right? Right? And so you feel good about yourself when you come out of his office and you're ready to go to practice again. You forgot everything that you were going in there for. You're mad and upset with Coach Stanton, but he was that kind of guy, and we didn't want to let him down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the ability to, I've always signed up for the idea that, true leadership is the ability to influence people.
Absolutely.
And great leadership is the ability to influence people to give of themselves for a cause greater than themselves.
Absolutely.
And, you know, Coach Bowden, certainly many successful college and pro coaches, but Coach Bowden being one, as you just said, had that quality. BoJack, what did you think from your before we transition kind of into the NFL piece, between your freshman year and your senior year, how did that culture change? I mean, because Bobby had basically, you know, he had his entire career at Florida State under Coach Bowden. And how did it change for you in terms of when he came in your junior year, and then obviously had the back half of your career with the Seminoles with him, in terms of that culture, and what changed to turn that momentum, you know, in a positive direction at that point?
Well, my experience was a little different than from when Bobby's. Like Daryl Mudra was a head coach that coached from the press box.
Interesting.
I never had experienced that before in my career. So it was like the head coach is up there, and you know, it was a little different. And I think that led to his downfall. I think he had 2 great recruiting classes prior to coach getting fired. But we were in every game. Our first game that I ever played as a true freshman was against the University of Pittsburgh, and Tony Dorsett was a sophomore. And I'm obviously knew who he was, and also the guy I'm covering in that game had a gold medal in the 4x100. He was on the United States Olympic team. He had a gold medal. So I'm like, okay. So I'm going to find out real quick whether I could play. Well, first of all, we held Tony Dorsett to 70 yards rushing.
Wow.
They beat us. If we had a quarterback that game, we would have beat them, but they beat us in a very close game. We missed a field goal that would have won it for us. And that gold medal guy, I knew they were going to send him up top on me, and they did. I got my first career interception then. So I knew I knew I had a ride. But when Coach Bowden came in, we were all kind of loose and free. We didn't have a dress code when we traveled and so forth. So when Coach Bowden came in, all of that changed. We had a meeting in our field house, which was just brand new, beautiful, constructed. We had, you know, substandard accommodation before Coach Bowden came in. And he had a meeting with the team, and he kind of hit me the wrong way, because he said something. He said this facility was really nice. He said, this place is a lot better than some of y'all's homes. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I said, did he just say, well, I look at all the black players. Now keep in mind, that was a little coach. All the black players look at each other like, did he just say that? That's kind of like come off like being racist, you know.
Right.
And they had that little undertone up. But the bottom line was he told the truth. It was better than our home. And all he was telling us was take care of your surroundings. Treat it like it's yours.
Sure.
That's all he was telling us. And also we had afros out to here back then. He made us cut our hair, groom ourselves, wear suit and ties on the road, and we begrudged, but he made us professional. He made us care about us personal, how we looked, how we represented Florida State. That was the first stance. But that's really, he made us feel good about ourselves. And then as a result, we started taking self-responsibility for what our teammates were doing. If they were slacking, we got on them. We policed ourselves. And we were an extension of the coaches. So I just got tired of losing, going from 1-10 and 3-5. You know, I was like, wait a minute. We got to do better than this, you know. So basically, that was it. Some of the guys, we had a players-only meeting and said, we're tired of losing. And we held each other accountable. And with great coaching leadership, the two of those things led to us being the team that we were in 77.
That is so awesome. It must have been a sign of the times, because I graduated from high school in 77. And when I went to college, my freshman year, I had a big afro too. So,
you had their perm in there.
That's it. I used to spend more time picking my hair out than most women did putting their makeup on. So I just think that, you know, what you just talked about is the culture that breeds accountability and responsibility. And for those players that buy into that, it's a beautiful thing to see when the coaching staff can put the schedule on the wall, or put the practice out there, or go out to the field and start the clock ticking. We're going to war, and those seniors jump in and lead everybody through, and also setting the example such that young guys coming in and saying, wow, that's how it's done, and as the old saying goes, how you do anything is how you'll do everything. And, if they see that the right way up front, it makes a huge difference. So I want to, if you would, I'm going to switch back, BoJack. You go to, you get drafted and show up at the Jets and have a pretty impressive rookie season, starting all 16 games and going forward from there. How did you feel like your experience and the tail end of your days with the Seminoles helped prepare you to take that next step going forward when you got to the Jets?
Well, I think what helped me the most, John, is that I've always been underestimated because of my size and the fact that I played football later on. I didn't start playing football until I was in 10th grade, organized football, but I played in the streets. I was in the band. And so I had this chip on my shoulder that, matter of fact, Florida State, just go back to Florida State for a second. I got the last scholarship that they offered. They had, I think it was 33 scholarships, whatever. And the last one, they were dangling out there, and they wanted my teammate, Big Nate, who was a defensive tackle, who was about 6'6", 250, 260. And they told them if they didn't take him, if they didn't take me, he wouldn't come. So I came in as a package deal. and I was really appreciative that my high school teammate stood up for him, but I was upset. And every day in practice, I had a chip on my shoulder to prove them wrong. Well, fast forwarding to my Jets drafting day, I felt that I should have been a number 1 draft pick. Right. Starting 4 straight years, only missing 1 game. And but the bottom line was I was a 6th round draft pick, and God knows what he's doing when certain things happen in your life, because if I would have been maybe a 1st round draft pick, maybe I wouldn't have worked as hard. But I had that same feeling that, and Dan Henning was the guy that told the Jets to draft me. He told him to draft me in the 3rd round. And he said, Bobby Jackson can start for you right now. Well, as it turned, they didn't draft me to the 6th round, and I started for them right now, just like he said. But the difference is that I had belief in myself, but also by that time, Coach Henning, who recruited me to come to Florida State, had left my sophomore year, was the reason why they just drafted me. So, and
that's cool.
When I don't want to fast forward to the Atlanta, but I guess I have to. When I went to the Falcons, the reason I went to the Falcons was, number 1, because of Dan Henning. He was a head coach. He talked me out of signing with San Francisco. And number 2, I knew I would be playing with Bobby again. Although I felt we'd be playing together. I didn't think we'd be competing for the same job. I said I would be on one side, he would be on the other side. But as it turned out, I ended up getting hurt and getting cut in camp. By the 3rd game of the season, and we never had a chance to play together.
Yeah, that's too bad.
And John, that's one of the saddest things. Not being able to play with him. It's something about these Florida State DBs, right? When we get together, man, we make things happen, right? Mm-hmm. And so I really was looking forward to BoJack and us playing the 2 Bs, right, on one side, the other side. And then when you fast forward to the end of my career playing with Dion, it was pretty much a wrap for my career when he came in. And there were a few games when they started us together, and man, we made noise. But then again, I always find myself back on that bench, right? I said, if they just let these Florida State guys play together, man, something good is going to happen, right?
It's interesting because I think there's a dynamic that develops, and certainly maybe a little stronger if you happen to be, closer, even though you guys were, 3 classes apart, if you were closer. But the rarity is to actually have guys from the same school at the same position go to the same team. So, that's an interesting dynamic you talk about. So when you got to the Falcons in 81, I'm going to throw the same question at you. Did you feel like what you had grown through, starting with BoJack helping you out as a freshman and then growing up through that time at Florida State and being there during a very, as you already articulated, a very successful time in the program's history, did you feel like you were prepared to step on the field, or was the situation at the Falcons a little more daunting in terms of having to break in, to the starting lineup?
I was ready. I was ready. And I think what really helped me, when we think about when you get to the league, what prepared you to be ready, right? So I had to go back to my freshman year in college. I'm watching BoJack play, and I'm watching him do things in practice that I would have never thought in my wildest idea that I can do some of those things.
Mhm.
But watching him, especially coming up to take on lead blockers and force runs, right? And I watched the way he would blow up guys, man. I go like, oh, that guy, he's not that much bigger than me, so that gave me the courage to try to do that. And then one day, after a while, I got pretty good at it, right? and so that helped me when he even left. I became that guy. I became him at Florida State when he left. And then when I got a chance to see him play as a rookie, he was with me as a freshman. I mean, my eyes were this big watching BoJack play on Sundays, right? And of course, we're all dreaming that, we're all going to take that next step one day, right? I mean, he was with me last year, and now he's in the league, doing what he's doing. And, I'm hoping that that's going to happen for me one day. And so all that helps prepare you. When you work with a guy and you see what he's done, and when he goes on and he makes it, it gives you inspiration and courage to, hey, look, maybe one day that could be me. And so when I got to Atlanta in 1981, I'm just telling you, I was ready to play. I was ready to play. I knew I could do it. And I was a starter day one pretty much.
That's awesome. It's great when, you don't oftentimes see that at critical positions, whether it be the secondary or quarterback or running back, so many times, especially back in the era you guys played, because there was this mindset of, hey, you're going to come in, and rarely did a guy crack the starting lineup as a rookie. He was going to, if nothing else, he was going to have to earn his time. Whereas today, especially with quarterbacks, it seems like, they're drafting guys specifically to be the franchise dude, and it's amazing. So I want to go to some team specific stuff. BoJack, what, we got an interesting situation that just went down. Sam Darnold gets traded, and the Jets are, after now several years of really struggling, are looking to try and make a break. But they got a brand new head coach. Looks like the culture is going to change. When you look back at your time with the team from that 78 to 85 period, and then you look at where the league is now and where the Jets are specifically, since you can speak to that in your your own playing history, what do you think they need to do right now to kind of bring it full circle and get back to a little bit of greatness?
Well, they have to make, obviously the new head coach that's coming in from San Francisco, you can pretty much kind of know that he's going to bring that type of style of play to New York. Whatever the 49ers are now, that's what he's going to try to build for the Jets. But in terms of a signal caller, I thought they made a mistake letting Darnold go. I would have kept him. Still would have gotten someone to be his understudy. Maybe the guy that they're gonna draft, the one from BYU. But until the Jets really get that identity to win, because they don't have that history. I mean, you have to go back to '69 to talk about the only time the Jets won the Super Bowl. And they've been to the AFC Championship game at least 3 or 4 times. I was in one of those, and we came up short. But until owners, until the Jets owners, not all owners, Jets owners really not just see the Jets as a business and really focus on the game and putting pieces in place, they're always going to be looking for a new something. And that's how I feel right now. Right now, I'm not really sure, but I do hope that they pick the right quarterback, but also get a running back. It's a Florida State running back that I think will be available. We projected to take him as the second pick. I hope they take him because we need him.
Okay.
They just need a lot of things, but bottom line, they need leadership, and I hope that the new head coach that's there now will provide that.
Yeah, it's a little bit, arguably, a little bit different stage, if you will. And I don't say that it may be every pun intended, because of obviously you got Broadway in New York. And not only that, but you also have that other team that wears blue and white over there. So, there's all kinds of dynamics in a city like New York where, the teams deal with different levels of fandom, as well as, the whims of the management and ownership. So, Bobby Butler, what do you recall from that time in Atlanta, and what do you think they've got to do going forward? I've asked Chris Miller this question before. Yeah. So, and he had some interesting thoughts, but what do you think they've got to do right now, present day, and understanding that the dynamic in Atlanta is a little bit different. I mean, the ATL is what it is, but there's no competing football team there, and so on. So what do you think they've got to do to get back on track?
Well, I'm a simple guy when it comes to the game of football. I think you build it up front. We got to build our foundation, and that foundation football to me is D and O line. Right. I mean, we got a quarterback who can get the job done. He's been around for years. I mean, we eventually got to get a guy, to put somebody there behind them maybe for a few years that maybe who can take over eventually. But I wouldn't draft that guy first. I got to build my defensive line and my offensive line. I really believe, John, and this is my opinion. I really believe that wide receivers and running backs are a dime a dozen. I mean, I got me and BoJack can go. BoJack can go to Albany right now. I can go to Delray Beach right now. We can find guys on the street drinking beer that can catch the ball and that can run the football. I promise you.
I love it.
I promise you that.
I love it.
But where we fail at is, we draft top down a lot. We want to draft a quarterback but you don't have a line to protect them and things like that. And so I just want to see them build up front. Julio is at the end of his career, in my opinion. He's making a lot of money. They're gonna have to make some business moves, even though I love Julio Jones. Calvin really is doing an excellent job, and we know he's gonna be a number one receiver one day. Things like that. So the business end, they gotta take care of that. But if you're drafting players, you gotta build your upfront line on both sides.
You need to build your foundation around guys that can play the game, and regardless of what position that is. In Miami, Florida, it's a little bit different for the Dolphins with Tua at quarterback than it is for any other people that have a right-handed quarterback. That all of a sudden that right tackle becomes the money man on the offensive line versus left tackle. So I agree with you. I think too often, as the guys on ESPN, the pundits say, he's going to take the best player available on the board. In my mind, a lot of teams have erred, and it's funny. I was interviewing somebody the other day, and they made the comment, there's a reason why the same teams ended up drafting at the top of the draft and the bottom of the draft every year.
There it is. I hate that term, John, the best available athlete. I do this every time I hear it. I put my hand on my ears. I don't want to hear that, man.
Well,
it's what we need.
It's always interesting to me to see the reaction of the crowd at the draft. And of course, last year was different, obviously, with COVID going on. But so I want to go back to or come forward to present day. Okay. You guys obviously stay in touch. It was great when we jumped on prior to coming on camera, seeing you guys interacting and stuff. How do you think that background, not only at Florida State, but also just in the league? I mean, you had a brief cup of coffee there in Atlanta as Bobby showed up after being at the Jets, but how have you guys kind of curated that friendship throughout the years? And did you chat at all when you were playing for, your individual teams while you were in the league?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, think about it, man. BoJack made it, right? And so I watched him every opportunity I get a chance to see the Jets play when I was at Florida State. I'm watching BoJack play, right? I want to see what he's doing. And I'll never forget, he picked off a ball, and back then on Monday Night Football, Howard Cosell would come on and do the halftime highlights.
Yeah.
And my boy BoJack was on halftime highlights, man, making plays. And I'm like, man, I want to do that one day, right? And so, yeah, always. And then when I got in the league, always had my ear to the ground what was going on in New York. Because I want to know what he was doing in New York, right? Because I got to live up to that, man. I got to bring my game up to the thing. And so always kept up with him. We always talked, communicated. One year, I broke my leg in 1986. And I didn't know how bad it was, but I broke my leg. They put screws in my ankle. And they took the screws out December 31st, 1986. And that's when I found out how bad it was, John. They said that you can't run for 3 months.
Wow.
I'm like, what? I got to get ready, I got to get ready. So I don't know where I found this information at, but this guy in New York on Long Island was training plyometrics.
Yeah, and we were working with him.
And I picked up the phone and called BoJack and talked to him. And I said, look, man, I gotta get in shape, man. I need to come to New York. So he invited me to come up, and I stayed 2 weeks at BoJack's house, and I trained with the guy, right? And we had a good time. So, our relationship, our brotherhood is for life, and it'll never change. I mean, we're the best of friends. We got a lot in common. I could talk to him a month from now, and he'll say something that he's going through. I say, man, I had the same situation going on, right? And we both went back to school not long ago, right? I went back to college in 2015, and it took me 2 years. I had 8 hours to get when I left, and that turned into 38 hours. And so I went back, and I'm calling him, telling him what I did. Next thing you know, he goes back to school, right?
That's awesome.
And so, I mean, we're brothers for life, man. I love BoJack, man. Listen, my life has been better because of him. And it's an amazing thing. We don't know how God orchestrates things in our lives. As we're going on our life journey, we just don't know. God knew I need to be in Tallahassee that 1 year to play with Bobby Jackson, right? To be mentored, to see how he does things. That's going to help me grow to get where I need to go. And then when we got in the league, we ended up together again, right? And then now our brotherhood, man, we're Seminoles for life. We're brothers for life, man. And that's not going to change.
Yeah. Maybe that was that premonition you had when you were sitting there with Coach Bowden. Maybe that was God tapping you on the shoulder.
Exactly. And I didn't know. Right.
Yeah, that's exactly.
That's true.
Well, BoJack, what do you think in fact, let me flip the script a little bit here. In the last couple of years, and outside, before the social justice issue became a big thing, and I'm talking even maybe before Kaepernick kneeled the first time or took a seat. There had been, flack in the league about the fact that you've got a league where at that time 68 to 75% of the players were African American, and yet there weren't guys of color getting opportunities like they should in coaching. Do you think, both of you haven't played, and BoJack, I'll ask you first, do you think that the league is going the right direction and we're beginning to see maybe the owners, realizing where they've gone wrong in the past and giving a few more guys opportunities now?
Yeah, I think it's changed. It's still a lot of work needs to be done, but it's great to see, people of color get opportunities to be head coaches and assistant coaches and all of those things, not just the talent on the field. That's the way it was. But on another vein, John, what the league needs to do a better job of is taking care of the players after they leave the game. Too many people think that we're all multimillionaires when we leave football, and we're not. So that's one of the things that I see right now, especially with the concussion lawsuit case. As you can see, and I'm involved with some stuff now with Johnny Lynn, who was a defensive back teammate of mine from California, in reference to how they are awarding or not awarding compensation for players that have received CTE or concussions.
Right.
In comparison, the contrast is being racialized to where between black players and white players again. And that's ridiculous because we all do the same thing. We all ram into people with our heads. We all incur some type of injury. Either you're going to get cut or you're going to retire. You're not going to play the game forever. And you're going to leave with some type of disability affiliated with that game that we love.
Sure.
And the question has been asked of me, if I had to do it all over again, would I? Absolutely. The only thing I would ask is that the league do a better job of aftercare for us when we're done with the game.
Yeah, I saw the report that you're talking about, that the baseline for players of color was assessed differently than for white players, which ultimately makes the remeasure and comparison against that baseline different and more lucrative in the case of white players, which is just ludicrous to me. You know, I mean, and you just articulated the why perfectly. So Bobby Butler, when you look across the landscape of the game, and I'll kind of ask you guys this one kind of as a parting shot. You know, thinking back to the start of your career at Florida State, 12 years in the league, and what you've done since, when you look at the game of football now in the NFL specifically, how do you see it has evolved? And do you think the game now is as strong as it's been? Could it still improve, or was it better when you guys were playing?
Well, of course it was better when I played, man. hey, John, a guy my size, I don't know how you do it without leading with the head. I'm just telling you.
Hey, right.
You know, because, you know, all I know, John, is, you know, I had to recognize it. I had to see it, recognize it, and react. And when I reacted, I had to make sure I was running 4-3. I don't know how I could have made it in a game, really, to be honest with you, running, dipping my hip, holding up, but not coming with force. You know, when running backs 235 pounds, you know, a running back 220, 235 pounds is a man child.
Absolutely.
That guy's more powerful than a 250-pound running back. You know, and so, you know, I just don't know how to do it. I guess I would have to learn the new techniques. And I don't know if I would be strong enough to do that. So, you know, but of course in my day, I'm partial to my day, you know, because it's the time I played in. You know, we talk about the GOATs, LeBron, Jordan, you know, it's my time is my time. And the best football was played between 1981 and the mid 90s.
I'll tell you what, the game has certainly changed, and I can say, and in fact, when I was interviewing Seminole, that's one of the things he commented on. He said, you know, of course, he had to retire because of concussions, and he said he thinks, and most recently as both an XFL offensive coordinator and a high school coach, he said he thinks the state of the game is that it is as safe as it has ever been now, not only from a technology standpoint, because helmets have improved and so on and so forth, but also from a technique standpoint. I mean, think about it. Back in the day when you guys were playing, the big thing was, you know, was wide receivers going to come across the middle because, you know, somebody's going to take their head off. And nowadays, not that doesn't exist, but you see a lot more guys sliding into a tackle, you know, preserve. And maybe some of that's common sense. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but the game has definitely changed. And to old school guys, I think that it has made a difference, maybe in a way that has taken away from the game, you know, not that removing the violence is a bad thing, but, you know, intended violence is one thing. And as you just talked about, Bobby, the impact was the total another. I mean, you know, it's a whole different deal. It was a heck of a lot different if you were trying to tackle Jerry Rice versus Earl Campbell, you know, and so it had to be, but, so BoJack, when you look back, same question to you. I mean, as far as the game itself and the status of pro football right now, how do you think the game is? Do you think it's in good hands? Do you think the players are well trained? Do you think we got to go in the right direction?
Football is a violent game, as you know.
Yep.
And yes, you have to regulate some of it, but you can't really take it all out of the game of why watch it. I mean, can you imagine a guy 5'9", 183 pounds considered, you know, too physical, you know, throwing penalties on me or hitting somebody is ridiculous. when it's against somebody 6'8", like Harold Carmichael was.
Right, exactly.
You know, it's but yeah, safety matters, but also this is a game that this is just part of it. You know, people want to see high scoring games. They want to see all of that. But I like to see a low scoring game as well. Absolutely. Because, you know, these guys are applying their trades also. But I just think it's going to get even, it's going to be almost like two-hand touch if they keep going the way they're going now. You can't really hit anybody hard anymore and sell those videos with great hits. That'll be a thing of the past. They're going to look at that back in the day, not too far from now, and say, "Oh, they used to do that. They used to hit like that. What happened?" But yeah, I mean, but safety is also very, very important as well.
Well, and I'm not suggesting throw the baby out with the bathwater either. I think that, you know, as I went to the USA football conference last year and went through multiple classes to be certified on tackling techniques. And I think that the way, you know, the way that it has evolved now with the developmental model that USA football came out with, and the way that people are teaching more of a rugby style tackling, it's you can still be aggressive and you can still be violent and hit hard and do so with techniques that not only help the person carrying the ball, but they help preserve you as well.
Exactly.
I mean, you think about who is it? Inky Johnson that you know,
I remember.
He goes to make a hit and ends up paralyzing himself, you know, and I'm sure there have been other cases. But it's one of those that I think that it's a good thing as long as we can keep the competitiveness of the game and the spontaneity, you know, so that it sticks around. So, well, listen, guys, I really genuinely appreciate both of you taking the time to come on and kind of reminisce a little bit. I'm glad that, you know, you guys do stay in touch as often as you do, because that made this more congenial, more interesting, but also just more genuine. And that's really what people want to see. So Bobby Butler, Bobby Jackson, thank you very much for being on the show today. And this thing's going to be out this week. We're having a very short turnaround. I typically don't do that, but I this week I wanted to get this one out because it was special to me to have guys on that you know were so representative of the whole theme with relationships. So Bobby and BoJack, thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for having us, John. Appreciate you.